Welcome to the Real Estate Investing Club. This is the place everyday real estate investors gather to share their best stories, biggest insights, and favorite tactics to grow a portfolio of cash flowing properties in today's market. Here's your host, Gabe Peterson.
All right, we are back with another episode of the Real Estate Investing Club. As always, bringing that Friday energy to you guys. Hope you're having a good day, whatever day it is for you, and wherever you are. It is a good episode because we got Jack Bosch with us back on the show. Jack is a land guy, also multifamily, but he focuses on land. So we're going to talk a little bit about investing in land. It's coincidental because we were just talking before we got on the show. I just happened to get a piece of land and we were talking about what to do with it. So land, real estate, the reason I love it so much is there's so many ways to do it. And even if you're marketing for something like I'm marketing for RV parks, mobile home parks, sometimes other things come into the mix and you can still do something with it. So land is one of them. There's plenty of it out there and Jack will tell us all about it. Jack, thanks for hopping on the show.
Excited to be here.
All right. I told you before we got on here, we always like starting with stories and hearing how people got to where they are. I know you got a good one, so take us to the beginning of your story in real estate and tell us how you got here.
Okay, so beginning is that, so we do land, right? We buy and sell cheaper, like land, infill lots in the path of growth, larger acreage in the more rural areas, not the multi-million-dollar infill lots. And the way we started with that is we stumbled into that. So I'm an immigrant from Germany. Legally in the country, always very important to say that these days. My wife is an immigrant from Honduras, Central America, equally legally. Both got to the college, got to finish our college degrees here. Met each other, fell in love with each other, fell in love with the U.S., and then decided to stay here. So we got jobs that sponsored our legal work visas. With the work visas, it took us 5.5 years to get to the green card, the permanent residency, and now we're both citizen. But in that process, we got disillusioned with the job world because I was in a job that was 100% travel, meaning I jumped on an airplane, was a consulting job in the software industry, so software implementation consultant. And I jumped in an airplane on Monday morning at 7 a.m, got somewhere like from Phoenix, where we live, to Colorado Springs or to Denver or to LA or sometimes even to Chicago, and I had to leave Sunday night. And worked all day there, like all night, literally from like 9 a.m. to 10 p.m. every day. And Friday morning or Thursday night, flew back that tired, worked from home or worked in the office on Friday, slept through the weekend. And that was my life. And I was like, this is not how I imagined the American dream. This is not how I imagined my career. This is not how I imagined really anything. So we simply then chose to look around, look outside of that and say, like, we got to do something different. But because we are on the H-1B visa, we couldn't quit our jobs. Because if you quit your job, you lose your your visa, and you have 60 days to find another job that picks it back up, or you have to leave the country.
Oh wow!
So we were tied to our job, and we went through some recessions back then, and couldn't quit our jobs. Worked twice as hard, but it just made it more and more and more important to have a plan B. So we looked in real estate as a plan B, and after looking and trying all kinds of strategies, we stumbled into pieces of land. We got, just like you said before, you found a piece of land for $5,000 that's worth 40 to 60 or 30 to 50. You're like, well, great. That's a perfect land profits deal. So my first deal was a piece of land worth $10,000 that I got for $400. And I sold it to the neighbor for $4,000 the same day. Then I got a larger property worth about $20,000 for $500. And we sold it on eBay back then. Today, eBay doesn't work that well anymore. But back in the days, eBay was a great strategy to sell land. And we put it on eBay and we sold it in 10 days for $10,500, made $10,000 net profit. Wow. I was like, without knowing anything about real estate, without knowing anything about repairs, without knowing even much of the real estate language. So I didn't know what deeds meant and 2x4s and drywall and what the shingles on the roof are called and things like that. None of that stuff we knew. Didn't know how to estimate repairs. Didn't know how to assess the value of a house. We just simply looked at, hey, here's a piece of land. Other pieces in the land in the area have sold for $25,000, so I guess it's worth $25,000. let's offer 3,000, get under contract, let's go sell it for 17 again and make a $14,000 profit. And now, fast forward, after we've done that a few times, we finally got our green card. We used all the energy that we had in our jobs now towards this business. And within a matter of 18 months, we were millionaires. And then within another couple of years, we built this to 8 figures. And to this day, we have done over 5,000 land deals.
I love it. Yeah, just one thing leads to another in real estate. That's why I like it. You bought a plot for 400, and a couple of years later, you got multi-million dollars. You're doing multifamily deals, over 4,000 land deals. So things snowball pretty quickly. And the one reason I really like land, not as a main strategy, at least for me, I do like to have cash flowing properties, like yourself, you're in multifamily, but I really like land because the entry point, the cost to entry is very low. Like you said, you bought your first 400. I just found this one for 5,000. And so if somebody is starting out, or they're working a job and they don't have, 25%, 35% of a $10 million to put down on a multifamily property, then getting started in land is a great strategy. You can close it a little bit easier, as I found. And the people that you're speaking with are also, in my opinion, they tend to be less, I guess, persnickety. Is that the word? Or what's the word I'm looking for? They don't care as much about the land. It's just land. They've probably owned it for a long time. A lot of times they have back taxes on it, and it's just sitting there. It's not doing anything for them. It's not making them money. And so they don't, if you offer them 25 cents on the dollar, they're not going to get super offended. They're just like, yeah, I'll take that. Or no, I don't think I'll take it.
Exactly right. Like you do get a couple of people responding back or saying like, "Why are you crazy?" But then, I mean, it's a little bit, not everyone that responds back to your marketing is actually really super motivated. Some people are just going to say like, well, yeah, let me see. If they offer me 100 grand, I'll take it. And sometimes some people live in la la land, but you correctly say there's 46 million pieces of land in the United States, and my estimate is that at any given time, 5% of them are ready to just let go of their land. So that's 2.3 million properties in the U.S. Not everyone; it's only 5%. So when you market to people, we have a set of criteria. When you use direct mail or cold calling or texting, but I still love direct mail because we're getting much higher response rates as the house people because there's less competition. You get people calling you back, and you hear exactly that. Yeah, I've owned it for 35 years, sick and tired of paying property taxes. I wanted to build a house there to retire on there, but my spouse passed away, or we are totally healthy, but my children have moved away and they have grandkids now. So instead of buying the house over there, we want to be close to the grandkids, so we're moving there. And so we don't have a need for it anymore. My kids don't want it, and it's kind of become a hassle. So if you want it, take it. Or if you want it, just make me an offer. And 25, 35, 45 cents on the dollar is often enough to have them sell it, because also often they bought it way cheaper back in the days. In their mind, like they paid 10 grand for it. It's worth perhaps 100 today. And they're like, well, you offer me 35. I'm happy. I got my money back out. I got no hassle. I just want to move on. And that's beautiful. And if they don't, they're usually not upset. They're like, no, not a fit. Okay.
Yep.
And we follow up. We have a follow-up system. Many of them we still get to say yes, but even if they don't, they're not yelling at you, or they're not mad at you.
Yeah. And that's the exact reason I started out in single family doing wholesales, flips, that kind of thing. But that's why I stopped and I started focusing on commercial, because I just hated talking to homeowners. They would, they get so mad if you offer them a price that they think is, it's essentially not the Zillow price. If you don't offer them that price, then they get really pissed. So let's kind of structure this conversation in the order in which things occur when you're buying land. So about finding the land, deciding if it's a deal, and then dispositioning it. Starting with finding it, you mentioned that you have your criteria. Run us through what your criteria is and how you decide who you're marketing to.
Okay. So the first criteria is what kind of land. So we focus on 3 kinds of pieces of land. One is infill lots. Infill lots are basically 35 houses, 2 empty lots, ready to be filled in with a house, thus the name infill lot. And those are great. And actually even important for those, you don't need to get them at 40 cents on the dollar. you can actually get them at 80 cents on the dollar. You can have a $100,000 infill lot, get them for 80K, because you're selling it to builders, and builders pay full retail. So that's number one. And that's a quick sale, because on the marketing side, you just go to a local home builders association's website, pull up 15 names of builders, take 15 phone calls. By phone call 5, you probably have it sold. The second kind of property is in the path of growth. The path of growth are properties that are just outside of the city, like anywhere from a few minutes to like half an hour drive outside of them. Those are really great for people that just want to live a little bit more in space, but be close to the city, or people that have to retire in a little bit more low-cost area, but don't want to be in rural America. They want to be in close to the city again. And also some people just buy them to hold on to them, because as the city keeps expanding, then engulfing more and more rural areas, the values shoot up like crazy. So some people just buy them for that. And then the third kind of property is larger area, larger acreage in more like an hour or 2 hours away from town, from a big city. And those are kind of, I call those my mini ranches. So a lot of people that make good money want to have their own mini ranch out there, a place to just bug out, a place to just put their RV, a place to build a cabin, and so on. And again, those are the kind of, first, that's the selection. So we don't go after the multi-million-dollar infill lots. We don't go after the big, like there's a 16-acre parcel down the road here in a neighborhood called Paradise Valley in Phoenix, where every house is a $5 million house and every lot is a $2.5 million lot. Well, that 16-acre parcel is worth something like $40 million. Well, that's not what we're dealing with. We're dealing with the more like the infill lots in a $500,000 neighborhood and so on. Then we're looking for people that either owned the property for a long time, or that often have inherited the property. And you can get that if you can go to the right data service. You can even say by deed type. You say, like, if I want only the properties where the deeds were not warranty deeds, but they were more like judgments and things like that. Because if you haven't, what happens in case somebody passes away in heir, the deceased person didn't write a warranty deed to the kids. The judge issues an order for probate, and in that order, it says that it passes to them. So it's a judgment deed in a way, that it's a judgment that, so if you can filter by that, you can find the heirs pretty directly. So because heirs usually don't own it for 20 years. They just own it for half a year, and they're already sick and tired, because an heir doesn't want to spend money on property taxes and maintenance of the land. They want to just get money. So they want to sell these things very quickly, and they don't care what the price is often. So those are some of the criteria. And then always size plays a role. Like if I'm 2 hours away from the city, I don't want an acre. I want minimum of 10 acres. Right? If I'm in the path of growth, I usually have 1 to 10 acres is the sweet spot. And if you're in the city, size really doesn't matter, because sometimes a small lot in a high priced neighborhood can be worth a couple $100,000, and sometimes a larger lot in the wrong side of town cannot be worth a lot of money. So size doesn't necessarily matter. It's more just overall market value.
Before we continue on with today's guest, I want to tell you guys about a community I'm launching on School to help investors like yourself grow your own portfolio. In this community, you'll get access to all the docs I use, all the systems I've built, everything I've used to grow my own portfolio, as well as instructions and guidance on how to get out there and find great deals, how to finance those deals, and then how to manage them for great returns. Since we're just launching it, the price will be set at a measly $20 per month, and whatever price you join at is the price you'll have for life. We will be increasing the price as the group grows, so if you're at all interested in growing your portfolio along other investors, now is the time to join. I will put the link somewhere in the bio or on our podcast website at therealestateinvestingclub.com. So if you are interested, head on over there. With that said, let's get back to the podcast. Yeah, that makes sense. And I'm sure, you have 3 different types of properties that you're buying, and they're both, it kind of goes from the distance to the city center. And I'm sure as you go out, the discount that you need increases. So the closer you are to the city, the less of a discount. You already mentioned, like if you're doing an infill lot, it's downtown, you can do 80 cents on the dollar, and a builder will scoop that up. If you're doing in the path of growth a little bit outside of the city, I'm sure, what are you doing, 50 cents on the dollar for those? You
want to be in the 40 to 60 cents, and the kind of same for the larger rural areas. because a lot of the buyers of these larger properties also, or a lot of buyers want to buy with seller financing. So we often offer seller financing because many times like banks don't lend on land usually.
Yeah.
So if you have a $50,000 property you want to sell for 50 grand, you have two choices. You can either discount it to 35, which means you got to get it for less than 35, which is not a problem. Or you can say, I'm going to sell it to you for $50,000 with a 20 or 30% down payment. You get $15,000 as a down payment. And that often works too if you get it cheap enough. And if it doesn't get cheap enough, you either finance the rest yourself, or you do what we call a triple closing. And now we're getting into creative finance. You buy it, you sell it with seller financing, and then you create a note in the middle, and then you sell that note, and you do this all in the same day. So that basically the money comes from the buyer and the note buyer, and it's enough to pay the seller and to pay you. And it's probably would require a little bit more time to explain that, but it's more like, think about it the way that you literally buy the property, sell the property, create a note, and then sell the note, and you're doing this all in one day without using your own money.
There you go. And if you guys are just starting out and you don't even have the money to purchase it, you can also partner with somebody who does have the capital, and they can bring the capital. You can find the deal, close the deal, and you can split the profits that way. So it's a great way to start out if you're low on capital. Wish I had actually started out in land. That would be a good way to go. All right, yeah. So we've gone through find. Let's talk about deciding. How do we decide that these parcels are worthy of closing on? What is the due diligence process that you run them through?
Yeah. So the first thing is we pretty much make offers only by analyzing the market value of the property. We do not call the city and ask for zoning and things and setbacks and all this kind of stuff, because our contract includes a provision that allows us to back out anytime for any reason. So that is obviously a killer provision to have in there. And again, it goes back to the point, why do the people sign this? Very simply because we're focusing on the 5% of non-wanters. They're just like people that just don't want to have this thing anymore. And they're signing really almost anything you put in front of them. It sounds strange, but they do. And you obviously want to be responsible for that. So, but the one provision that we put into the contract is that we say we have the right to back out of the contract. So therefore, I can put anything on a contract without ever being stuck with it and without ever running the risk of getting into something I don't want to get into, because worst case, I can always cancel the contract and back out of it. But with that said, that allows us to do less research up front, get the deals under contract at a good discount, and then when you start doing research. And the research we do is like, typically first thing we call is a county planning and zoning department. Because we ask them like, okay, what is this zone for? What can I do with it? What does the city want to be done with it? And then also ask for like the minimum, is there minimum size building? Is there maximum size building? Are there setbacks? Are there water? Are there utilities to the property? Right? What if yes? I mean, usually you find that out ahead of time, but sometimes you don't. And then so you ask like, well, is it water and sewer, or is it just water and I need a septic system? Is it electricity? If not, how far is electricity away? And so on. And if you get into a rural area, the assumption is usually there's no utilities there other than perhaps electricity. So you verify that. You verify like, well, how do I get water? What's the water rights situation in the state? And then you might also want to do an EPA, an Environmental Protection Agency check, and check it to see if there's anywhere in the area there's a big oil spill or something, particularly for the infill lots. Because outside of town in the rural areas, there's usually never anything bad environmentally, but for the infill lots, you definitely want to check that and do a few things like that, so you really know what's going on. Go ahead.
Do you just check the website, or do you guys do a phase one on those?
No, just the website. Just the website. Got it. Okay. So we just go to epa.gov, and then there's a way that you can you look around for like any kind of house in the neighborhood that you have an actual address on, because land typically doesn't have an address. So you go look around on Google Maps, and it's like, oh, there's a house close by. You click on that house, and it gives you the address of that house. You take that address, put it in the APA website, and it'll tell you if anywhere in that area there was something environmentally significant. So it doesn't have to be that house, obviously, but if your property is half a mile away, it'll tell you within like several miles if anything happened. And that's good enough to know. And usually the answer is nothing. In 5,000 deals, I've come across one property that had an environmental issue, and that was actually an infill lot, which still had several buildings on there, which was a chemical factory that had burned down. Well,
of course,
that tells you something right there, right? So, but other than that, we still were able to wholesale it. but he did an assignment because we never wanted to be on the deed, because that's the number one thing. You can still make money with deals like that, but just don't ever become the owner, because if there's environmental issues, the APA can go from owner to owner to owner to owner and collect all the money they need to clean it up. And so if you never become the owner, they can't go after you. If you just put it under contract and pass that contract on to somebody else as an assignment, you're clean. You've never been the owner. But again, one of the 5,000, nothing you even have to worry about.
Yeah. I do phase one on all commercial properties I buy, but I've never had any issues come back. And I feel like usually
on commercial ones in the city, if I plan to buy and hold on them, I do that too. Again, in doubt, assign. Otherwise,
should be good.
Yeah. Should be good.
All right. So that's the due diligence process. And you mentioned you call the city, you look at setbacks, you check for utilities in the area, how far they are away, and then you check the EPA website. Outside of that, I mean, you really don't need to do a physical inspection, I'm assuming.
I haven't seen any of the pieces of land that I've flipped in the last 17 years. I haven't gone to see any of them. One thing we obviously do is we open escrow at that point, because the other risk factor here is that there's something wrong with title. That the property needs probate or something like that. So we open escrow, let title do that. But again, our contract gives us up to 6 months to close on a property. So we don't have to buy in 7 days or in 30 days or 90 days. We simply have a contract that's like closing is 9 months. Why? So we just have time. We can go on vacation, come back, or if we get 15 deals on a contract, perhaps we sell the 3 first, 3 the second, 3 third. So it might take a while until we even get to sell it. But also, if there is title issues, we have plenty of time to fix them. So we go tell the title company, please do the title search right away, but closing is down the road. So they do the title search. They let us know, oh, there's a probate situation. Oh, there's a easement on the property that we need to look at, and it's a utility easement, and you can't build on this area. Now you can only build on 80% of the property, and other things a little bit matter, but the title company finds that out for you.
Yep. All right, so let's move on to disposition. You've already kind of touched on this a little bit already. You guys are in favor of seller financing. So let's talk about, you buy these properties. How do you do the disposition? How do you sell them off?
Yeah, so from a marketing point of view, we use several strategies. The first one we use, and more, that wasn't really a good option just 3-4 years ago, but now more and more, is realtors. So like realtors used to absolutely, excuse my language, suck for land. They're trained for houses, not for land. They're trained to get the photographer in with the beautiful pictures, to stage the home, to do all those kind of things, but they don't know what to even write about a piece of land. They don't even know how to treat it. So most realtors would take a piece of land, take a Google aerial shot, put a 2-liner on there and put it up there and hope that somebody comes along and buys it. That's not how you sell land. Land needs to be sold by not what is, but what you can do with it. So you need to tell a land, or like somebody's interested in the land, this is your perfect retirement place. You need to embed it into what's around it. You need to say, you're 20 minutes away from the city, but you're only 2 minutes away from the interstate that brings you into town. And you're only 8 minutes away from this little town where there's a grocery store and this. So you can be in the nature, but you still can be close to everything. Right? A retiree is going to look for that. Somebody who wants to live outside of town doesn't want to travel half an hour for a grocery store. If they have a grocery store 8 minutes away, that's a benefit, right? So et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So you want to dream build with land, and more realtors finally understand that. So you want to do that. Second thing is, we also contact people in the neighborhood of the property. Just because that seller wanted to get rid of this property doesn't mean all the other people in the neighborhood don't want to add more land. There's people that want to buy land because they want to have their family move close by. There's people who want to buy land to just have an extra piece of land to store some RVs on it or so. There's people who want to have land because it appreciates. And there's people who just want to buy land just to keep other people out of the neighborhood. They're like, if it's a little bit more rural neighborhood, they're like, we don't want more people here. Let me buy these lots that you have to offer so I can keep my privacy, right? So it's all different reasons, but neighbors actually often we sell about 1/3 of our properties to neighbors.
Wow, that's crazy.
A lot sell to realtors. And then also one thing that you'll do over time is you build up, well, then we put the listings, we put it on Zillow, we put it on landwatch.com, we put it on places like Facebook Marketplace, Facebook groups. And from all of these places, what you're going to get is people contacting you and say like, hey, is this property still available? right? Or if you use a realtor, they can contact the realtor, so it's outsourced. But so you build over time, you build what's called a buyer's list. And then over time, as your buyer's list is big enough, you actually have a new deal coming in. You email that buyer's list first and say like, hey guys, you guys were all looking for property in this market. I got another one. And often your buyer's list buys 30, 40% of your deals. The neighbors buy 30, 40% of your deals. And the rest of it is being sold either by Facebook Marketplace or so on, or to a realtor. So in this combination, there's plenty of ways to sell them, particularly if they're bargains or if they're seller financing deals with really good terms.
Yeah, that makes sense. And so seller financing is probably, is that the first thing that you go to? Is that the first option that you put out there, is seller financing? Or
I do, because in my business, it doesn't matter if they pay me the full money back or not, because I'm in the blessed situation of having made enough money from these deals, from cash deals, that now if I pay $20,000 for a property, if I have a property under contract for $20,000 and I put it up for sale for $50,000 and somebody says, I want to buy this property, but I only have $15,000 as a down payment, I'll accept that and I'll eat the $5,000. I contribute the $5,000 out of my own pocket. And then I get cash flow, because now I'm getting cash flow. I put $5,000 in a deal, but I'm getting cash flow on $35,000. I'm getting $500 a month. So in 10 months, I got all my money back and everything else is profit. I'm okay with that. Now, many times when people come to us, they don't have a lot of savings. So they can do that once, twice, 3 or 4 times, and then they're out of savings. So that's when you need to start looking into the more creative finance, or you simply, what most people do is their very first 10, 15 deals, they don't offer seller financing. They simply just say wholesale deal. They take that property, let's say they have it under contract for 20, they list it for 35. It's a cash deal. They make $15,000 and they do it again and again and again and again. And after 10 deals like that, you got $150,000 in the bank. Now you can do seller financing, even if you have to sometimes supplement the deal with your own money.
Yeah, makes sense. I love it. All right. Well, I'm going to take that opportunity to push us along to the quick question round. I appreciate what you just put us through. It was a crash course in land investing. So anybody who's listening who has been interested in land, you just got a gift. And I'm appreciative myself. So Jack, thank you. And yeah, let's hop into the quick question round.
Let's do it.
All right. Starts with education. Could be anything. Could be a conference you've gone to, a mentorship program you've been a part of, a book you've read, anything. But I need 2 recommendations, one for general life wisdom and then one for real estate.
Okay. I was not prepared for that question. So general life wisdom or real estate, I think I'm going to recommend a book that's called, I have to actually look it up on my Amazon here. I keep forgetting the name, even though I've read it. My 16-year-old daughter, now 17, she has read it. And Unreasonable Hospitality is the name. Unreasonable Hospitality. It's by Will Guidara. And it's the story of how he built a good restaurant in New York City into the #1 restaurant in the world. And it was voted best restaurant in the world. And it's a page by page, crazy fun to read. Even my 16-year-old is reading it for the second time already. And she doesn't read, let's put it that way. She doesn't like to read, but she loves this book because it's a business MBA in a book. At the same time, it's also a life MBA because it's all about how to do things the right way. So I would take that one. And as a real estate kind of, as a real estate thing, it's like a research, a conference. Let me know. I don't know. I can obviously promote, I can obviously mention our own, but
yeah, that works. What's your the book that you guys offer?
We actually don't have a book. I wrote a book 10 years ago, but it's more of a life, my wealth philosophy. It's called Forever Cash. You can get used copies on Amazon for that. But it's more like a wealth creation, not necessarily even a real estate book. We're working on a real estate book that we probably release this year. But I would think there's a conference group called IMN. They do lots of conferences, high-level conferences with some really big players on everything having to do with real estate. So if you do it to IMN, I think it's .org. They have something like 50 to 100 conferences a year. There's almost like one every single week. They have them for multifamily, for distressed properties, for single family, for land development. It's where the bigger players are going, but it's also a great thing just to get a market insight. So I would recommend that as a conference for real estate.
Wow, that is crazy that you are the first person that's told me about IMN. I just pulled up their website. That is really cool. They have it for all different niches. So if you guys are into land development, deal making, single family rentals, I'm just literally reading it from the website. They have everything, manufactured housing, and so that is a good resource there. I'm surprised I haven't heard about
Not
that.
necessarily one for beginners, but because there's like $1 billion portfolios show up at those places.
Very cool. All right, let's move on to the next question. This is for your younger self. Let's go back to the Jack who was just getting started so many years ago. Go back to him, look him in the eye, give him one piece of advice moving forward.
Take more risks and scale faster.
There you go.
And thirdly, perhaps get into some really good management and personal development coaching programs, because your business will never expand beyond your own abilities and your own mindset. So it's not just mindset. Yes, I'm a $1 billion kind of guy. If you don't have the skills to build $1 billion business, then you're not going to be able to build it, even though your mind might say, let's build this. So it is three things. You got to believe it. You can do it. You got to have built the skills and become the person that can do it. And you got to have mentors that show you how to get there.
Perfect. I love it. And you said take more risks at the outset. I'm going to put that in the bucket of I wish I got started sooner. And anytime somebody recommends that, I always point it back to you, the listener. If you're listening and you haven't done your first deal, this is a kick in the pants. Everybody, like 90% of the guests who come on this show, they all wish they got started sooner. So this is an opportunity for you to just go out there and get your first deal done. Everybody wishes they would have started sooner. And all you need is that first deal. And once that deal is done, it starts to snowball. You just put one foot in front of the other. I know it's scary, but always people wish they had done that first deal sooner. So go out there and get it done. All right, next question is about the U.S. It's a big place. There is a lot of opportunity out there. Give me the single metro you're most excited about investing in today.
Depending on what asset class, but if it's land, probably Dallas, Texas. If it's multifamily and those kind of things, it's probably both Phoenix and Dallas. Simply from the reason that these are some of the strongest growing markets without most of the natural catastrophes that other areas have.
Poor Florida. That's looking at you.
Florida, buddy. California, I mean, you name it, and it's crazy. Yet Phoenix has nothing, just heat, which you can fight with air condition, and Texas, similar kind of things.
Yeah. Although surprisingly, right now they're getting a lot of snow. It's crazy. I own a mobile
you get
home
ice
park.
storms and things like that, but that's not something that destroys the city.
True.
Right? And you get a tornado coming through sometimes that destroys some buildings, but other than that, it's not like the level of Florida, the level of what's going on in LA, and the level of earthquakes and those kind of things. So that's what I mean by that.
Yeah, makes sense. All right, next question is about finding deals. We've already kind of gone over some of the marketing things, but it all comes down to your favorite way to generate leads. So let's talk about that. What is your favorite way to get in contact with the seller and find new leads?
In land, it's still direct mail because we're getting an almost 10x return compared to the house flippers. I have many house flipper friends today. In today's world, they're getting a 0.3% response rate on a larger scale mail. Obviously not if they do have this tiny segment, they get higher response rates. But if they do like a $50,000 mailer just like high equity or something homes, they get almost no responses. We get in a well-selected area between 2 and 3% as a response rate. So that's 6 to 10 times higher than the house flippers. And it also I love direct mail because it helps you work around your timeline. If you text people, they text you back. Guess how fast they want an answer? They want they expect you to text right back. If you send them a letter and they call you and you have a call center take it, the call center says, we're going to make you an offer in the next 7 to 10 days. Now I can continue be on vacation with my family, and a week later I'll check in at night in the hotel room and make my offers. And it allows me to have a life and have a business.
Yep. Yeah, I like mailers as well in that capacity. I agree. I did mailers back in the day. I did mailers for single family, and it was just cost too much because people just were not responding. And so single family, definitely mailers are not the way. And I find commercial mailers don't really work either. Unfortunately, I really do like mailers, but mobile home parks, I've had more success with mailers, but for self-storage, absolutely not. They will not call you back on a mailer. But it's good to hear that it works on land. So that is it's one of my favorite ways to work. And so if it works on land, that's positive. All right, yeah. Next question is about lessons learned. Not every deal we get into goes the way we expect it. In fact, many times something goes wrong and we get to learn a lesson. So what was a deal that went a little sideways for you? And then what was the lesson you pulled from it?
So the land side of things, the only time we lost money on deals is when we started believing our own press releases and started thinking that we're better than we are, and started slacking on the due diligence once you have on a contract. So one of the things is, that's why I said the first call is to the planning and zoning department. So in this case, we had bought like 10 properties that were like half an acre each, and we sold them and made great money of them. So we went right back into the same area. And next time around, we just shifted around a little bit to a little bit different neighborhood, but same area. And we got 10 deals under contract that were quarter acre. But we looked at the map, there are houses all around. We're like, great, good. We bought them. In this case, we actually paid money and bought them instead of just doing the contract and be able to back out. And then we realized and did not call the planning and zoning department because we had already called them. Like, who needs to call them again? Like, what's the difference? They're just smaller properties. Well, it turns out that between when there's all those houses in the area were built and today, they had changed the zoning rules that you needed half an acre to build. So all these quarter acre properties were non-buildable. So we luckily had a couple of them that were like next to each other, so we could sell them together and somebody could build there for. So of the 10, 2 packages or 2 or 3 packages of 2 went away, but the other 4 properties we actually had to sell. Luckily, because we had so much little money in it, we lost only like $1,000 on them a piece. So the damage was really, really low. But the lesson still was learned that if we just would have picked up the phone and called the city, they would have told us that these are not buildable, and we would have backed out at least out of 4 of them and just bought the 3 sets of 2, which we then knew we could combine and sell as a buildable lot.
Yeah, that is especially when you're doing higher volume, when you have multiple properties under contract that you're trying to buy, it is so tempting to not follow your checklist when it comes to due diligence, and do the things that you feel like you need to do and then not do other things. But that is definitely where you get bit. I've had it happen to me where I bought in an area that I thought I knew like the back of my hand, and I was wrong. And I luckily didn't lose money, but I still didn't turn out the way I had hoped. So due diligence is something that you just never slack on. Always go through your checklist, go step by step, and get it all done. Yeah. All right. That leads us to the very last question. This is for the listeners. You've given us a lot to think about. I'm sure people want to reach out, get in contact with you. This is a 2-parter. Where can they find you? And then what can they expect when they reach out?
Wonderful. Great. So the easiest way to find me is to go to landprofitfun.com, www.landprofitfun, fun like having fun, F-U-N, landprofitfun.com. And then, of course, in addition, what you can expect there is to see a website where you can download for free a 30-day blueprint that shows you how this land business works and how you can make it happen in your own life over the course of 30 days. So there's daily actions, and it's very detailed. Actually, it's 100% for free. But you can also other places is I have my own podcast, the Jack Bosch Show, where we talk about not just real estate, but also entrepreneurship and other things, but a lot about land and real estate. And then I'm on social media as Jack Bosch pretty much everywhere.
Awesome. I love it. I will put that link in the show notes. So if y'all want to reach out, just click the little more in the description. It'll pull down that full description in there. You can find Jack's link. All right, man, that wraps it up. Thank you very much for hopping on the show.
Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. For everybody who's with us today, thank you guys for showing up. You are the reason we do this. So if you guys have any questions, reach out to me, Gabe, with realestateInvestingClub.com. If you guys want to support the show, just leave us a review. Other than that, I hope you guys have a great week. Keep rocking real estate, and I look forward to seeing you on the next episode. All right, before I officially sign off, I have a quick announcement to make. If you're interested in becoming a passive investor in one of my deals, my own company, Kaizen Properties, is looking for capital partners for our upcoming projects. We invest in what are known as recession-resistant assets, mainly self-storage facilities, mobile home and RV parks, and industrial properties. If you're interested in investing and would like to learn a little bit more about my company, our investing criteria, and some of the previous projects we've done, go to the Real Estate Investing Club podcast at therealestateinvestingclub.com and scroll all the way down to the bottom of the page. Click on the Invest With Us button. That'll pop up the investor form. Fill that out, and we will reach back out to you as soon as we can. Or if you prefer a little bit more of a personal touch, you can reach out to me at gabe@therealestateinvestingclub.com. So really, that is it. Again, it was a pleasure hanging out with you guys during this episode, and I look forward to seeing you on the next episode.